Hi everyone, this is the third and hopefully the last live for the second chapter of Undercover Economist. The previous live ended abruptly, so I'm sorry for that. This does not mean the new situation is perfect. Oh, sorry, we were talking about pill crops, medical, where like they could either, and different ways they could uh, strategize their pricing, which means they could put a higher price for everyone, or they could put a higher price for the developed nation and lower price for the underdeveloped nation, which would create dual pricing policy. But in the medical industry, there is a problem of leakage where the people of the lower pricing area would resell the medicine to the higher pricing area, and that would decrease their market share and cause them to cause them to earn less profit than they usually would. So now continuing, Philcrop's dual pricing policy creates a much better situation. Customers in rich countries are no worse off. Shareholders in Philcrop are better off, and people living with HIV/AIDS in poor countries are also better off. To use the business school jargon, this is a win-win situation, or as an economist would say, a clear improvement in efficiency. My laptop's again out of charge. Let me just quickly grab my charger. Looks like it's charging. Now, now, when price targeting is a bad thing. This is the next segment. Philcrop's new price targeting program was a win-win, but sometimes targeting is a losing proposition all around. Consider another hypothetical organization, TrainCrop, a passenger train company. TrainCrop owns a train that always travels full. Some of the seats go at a discount of $50 to leisure travelers who booked in advance, to senior citizens, to students, or to families. The other tickets cost the full price of $100 and are bought by commuters. The other tickets cost the full price of $100 and are bought by commuters and other business travelers. This is a fairly standard group targeting strategy. By giving away a few low price tickets, Train Club strictly restricts supply and acquires the ability to demand high prices by offering tickets to only the buyers with the highest willingness to pay. It might be profitable for Train Club just to fence off some of the seats and restrict supply that way, but it's even better for them to fill the spare seats if they can. We know at once, if we are economists, that this is inefficient. In other words, we can think of something that would make at least one person better off without making anyone else worse off. That something is to find a commuter who was willing to pay a little less than $100, say $95, who decided to travel by car instead, and offer him a seat for $90. Where does the seat come from? Since the train is full, well, you take a student who is in no great hurry and was willing to pay a little more than $50, say $55 for a seat, and politely throw him off the train. But you refund the price of his ticket plus a $10 extra for his trouble. Where do we stand now? The commuter was willing to pay $95 but only paid 90. He's better off by $5. The student was willing to pay $55 for a $50 ticket, so if he'd been allowed to ride, he'd have been only $5 better off. But he has just been given $10, so the student is also happy. And what about Train Club? Well, Train Club just transferred the $50 ticket into a $90 ticket and made a more profitable sale. Even after paying $10 compensation to the student, the company is $30 ahead. Now everyone's a winner. Or they would be if Train Club adopted the system instead of its group pricing strategy. But of course, that's not what happens. Because if TrainCrop tried it, commuters who were willing to pay $100 would hang around for a $90 tickets, and students who weren't willing to pay $50 would buy tickets anyway and wait to be paid to get off. The whole affair would turn out badly for Traincorp, who is in the one who gets to set the prices. In case your head is spinning a little, there is a quick and dirty summary. The group pricing strategy is the group targeting strategy is inefficient because it takes seats away from customers who are willing to pay more and gives them to customers who are willing to pay less. Yet, airlines and railroads still use it because the alternative of individual price targeting isn't feasible. Okay, so sometimes price targeting is less efficient than a uniform price, as in the case of the train. Sometimes it's more efficient than a uniform price, as in the case of the HIV/AIDS drugs. But we can say more than that. Whatever price targeting fails to expand the number of sales and merely moves products from people who value them more, like commuters, to people who value them less, like students, as in the case of train crop, it will definitely be less efficient than a uniform price. Whenever price targeting opens up a new market without affecting the old market, as with pill crop, it will definitely be more efficient than a uniform price. And there's a middle position. A, a lot of group price targeting strategies does this does a bit of both. It opens up some new markets, but also wastefully moves product away from high value users to low value users. For example, this book is published in hardcover at a high price, and then the paperback edition emerges later at a lower price. The aim is to target a higher price at the people impatient to hear what I have to say at the libraries. One good result is that the publisher will be able to sell paperbacks more cheaply because some costs will be offset by the hardcover sales, and so the book will reach more people. One bad result is that the early version is much more expensive than it would be if there was only a single paperback edition, and some buyers will be put off. That's what life is like in the world of scarcity. When companies with scarcity power try to exploit it, the situation will almost always be inefficient, and equivalently, we economists will almost always be able to think of something better. I say almost because a company which is able to practice perfectly individualized price targeting strategy would never miss a sale. Rich or desperate customers would pay a lot, poor or indifferent customers would pay very little, but no customer willing to pay the cost of production would be turned away. The situation would be efficient. Being realistic though, it's most unlikely that any company would have so much information about its customers as to be able to make such perfectly efficient sales. The company would need to peer into the heart of every possible customer and find out how badly he or she wanted the product. It would need a supercomputer to operate the cash registers. That just isn't plausible. But perhaps it makes you think, what if you could plug every customer's preferences into a supercomputer? What if you had all the information you needed to never miss a sale? Would the world be a better place? Something else may have caught your attention. While Pilcrop changed its global pricing policy, it did something that was not only profitable but also more both efficient and fair. Can we say anything more generally about what private greed will solve the public interest? When greed will solve the public interest? This sounds like the invisible hand theory. That was my opinion. For the answers to all these questions and more, read on. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the end of chapter 2, and it's a very interesting book and a fun read. So, if you can grab a copy, I would highly recommend you to do so. Thank you. Bye bye.